Brian Kenneth Condis. Amazing photography, the art of composition. This is the new studio setup, and I'm shooting with a 50mm lens. It's set at f5.6, ISO 250 at a 1/25 shutter speed, recording in high definition. And the new lighting setup is we have a very huge 55-inch soft box. It's actually an octo box on my left here. We have a fill light, an LED fill light on my right, and in the back in the corner we have a fluorescent light bouncing light off the back. In this video we're going to cover two photo compositions. The first is an astro photo, and with this one it's going to show this incredible light sword with the stars. And the second one has a very beautiful 24-year-old female model by the name of Heaven. I call the photo Heaven on Earth because that's what it is. She's at sunset on the beach, and we're going to go over the composition. This is a light sword. It uses an electroluminescent tape, which is powered by a 9-volt inverter. And the camera is positioned 50 feet away from the subject. For details on camera settings, get my book, Amazing Photography, the Art of Composition. Now the composition in this image, it has a focal point which is the light sword trails. The composition also has these leading lines on the railing that lead the eye to the subject. This composition uses a very large depth of field where everything in the foreground and background is in sharp focus. It has a figure to ground relationship. The figure, because of this rim light right here, it creates a rim light on the back of the subject and the head of the subject and also the arm of the subject. This is creating separation of the subject from the background. Now the red wood of this pier, which is a warm color, is in color contrast with the light sword blue, cyan blue color, and also the water background. The light sword frames the subject going around the head of the subject. It creates a frame. We also have a dynamic symmetry. This uses a root-phi ratio. The image aspect ratio is 11 by 14, 11 wide by 14 tall. Now it has a Baroque diagonal, which is a major diagonal, which is locking in to the front edge of the light sword trails. And the sinister diagonal reciprocal is paralleling the arm of the subject. All right, we have the beautiful Heaven with the Heaven on Earth photo. The first thing on this composition is the good figure to ground relationship. She has this darker hair on the top of her head, and it contrasts very well with the light background on the sky. So all this is good figure to ground relationship, even the dark skin here. It loses contrast with the lightness between these two. It has good figure to ground relationship on her waist, where we have a shadows casting and some really bright highlights on the water. The same thing going on with the shadows on the arm against the bright highlights of the water here. Okay, we have a low camera angle. So what we got to remember, the horizon line when you're dealing with portraits. You don't want this horizon line cutting off on the neck like it's decapitating your model. It's much better to place the horizon lower on the model. Like here, it's going across the model's chest. And that's acceptable. It's actually a good place to crop an image, which is right here. Dynamic symmetry grid. So this is an image aspect ratio of 11 to 14. If you divide 14 by 11, you get this ratio which is the root phi ratio of 1.272. Now this ratio, both major diagonals are aligning with the model's lower back and waist right here. And if you extend the sinister diagonal, which is this one here, up to the nipple of the model, and the reciprocal of the sinister diagonal, it intersects with the left top polar point. For information on how I lit this shot, you can get my book, Amazing Photography, The Art of Composition.